Latrobe Street Mission is not just a shelter, it's a way forward when some people are facing one of the darkest times of their life. Our Cassidy Fury talked with the executive director of the mission to highlight the journey through homelessness.
The journey out of homelessness looks different for many people. At Latrobe Street Mission, Executive Director Michelle Beers and her team want to give you all of the resources that you need.
That's our goal, is to walk with them hand in hand to see them through until they become successful again.
The mission not only provides a warm place to stay and a hot meal, but a friendly face and a listening ear.
That's a great icebreaker to start working as a relationship together, realizing that we're just not here to, again, just be some kind of business. This is because we care and we truly want to help you in your life.
Beers said it's important to evaluate guests of the mission on an individual basis.
Usually a day or two. If it's a weekend, it might take a little bit longer to have them meet with our case manager or our shelter manager to go over and do more of an in-depth intake to see exactly where we're starting from.
In some cases, people enter the mission to escape domestic violence situations or to simply start their lives over.
We are trying to protect them, and being homeless is typically at the bottom of where anyone wants to be in life, and so just respecting their dignity at that time is a huge importance to us.
The mission offers resources for those who are seeking mental health and substance abuse help. Beers said they also assist with government and medical paperwork to help guests access government programs and to get the health care they need.
And instead of just, someone staying here, walking them through, getting them to housing, I think it's really important to help them maintain their housing, which they would have a better shot at that if we offered life skills while they were here.
In the past few weeks, Beers has been brainstorming ways to connect guests of the mission with classes and demonstrations that can help teach them vital life skills that will add to the success of their journey.
Teaching people how to budget, being prepared to pay their rent and utilities when that time comes, teaching people how to cook. We have a kitchen here that could be utilized to give people that ability to cook for themselves, or maybe it's just because they could learn how to cook and they could go work at a local restaurant, right? That gives them those skills.
In the next 3 to 5 years, Beers plans on introducing temporary housing for guests who are transitioning out of homelessness, as well as a 1-year program to assist women and children.
I think that once people really understand what our heartbeat is and what we're trying to do here, I think that they might have a different perception of not just Latrobe Mission, but just homelessness in general.
The mission is also planning on working with the Humane Society of Parkersburg to maintain a place for guests to keep their pets next winter during the warming shelter season. Reporting from Parkersburg, I'm Cassidy Fury with WTAP News.